Alzheimer's. The role of genetics in the fight against Alzheimer's disease. Presented by Brianna Scarfile, Cindy Vaquero, Itza Valdez, and Andrea Cross. The history of Alzheimer's. In 1906, Alzheimer's is first discovered by a German physician, Dr. Alois Alzheimer. He encounters a case where a woman forgets her family amongst other symptoms, and he performs an autopsy on the brain, and it shows major shrinkage. This is the first stepping stones for a breakthrough of a major disease. In 1968, the first scale is created to accurately measure the mental capacity in adults and their ability to cognitively function. In 1976, Alzheimer's is recognized as the most common form of dementia by a neurologist named Robert Katzman. In 1984, the main part of the brain plaque in a large suspect of nerve cell damage is discovered called beta amyloid. Also in 1984, the nationwide infrastructure of Alzheimer's research begins and becomes funded to continue research to help diagnose and understand treatments. In 1986, tau protein is found to be a large contributor to tangles and a suspect for nerve cell damage. In 1987, the first drug trial begins for Alzheimer's to target the symptoms that disease causes. In 1993, the first potential Alzheimer's gene is discovered on chromosome 19. Also in 1993, the first Alzheimer's drug is approved by the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA. The drug assists in memory and thought symptoms. In 1999, trials on mice are successful for an Alzheimer's vaccine. Mice containing the Alzheimer's gene is injected with beta amyloid and found no signs of plaque or symptoms. In 2003, the National Alzheimer's Disease Genetic Study begins and is collaborated with Alzheimer's Association and National Institute on Aging. In 2021, aducanumab is approved by the FDA to use for Alzheimer's therapy and addresses the biology of Alzheimer's disease.
When talking about genetics, there's two aspects we need to become familiar with. That would be the cellular aspect and the molecular aspect. In Alzheimer's disease, the disease disrupts the communication among the many neurons inside of the brain. There are electrical and chemical signals that are not efficiently sending and receiving information between the different areas of the brain and all over the body. Now, a neuron, you might be wondering, what is that? So a neuron is basically a cell body that has multiple dendrites, which are similar to like spider legs coming off of the body, and then it has an axon, which is similar to a long tail. Now, another major point in the neuron is the nucleus, which is found within the cell body. And the nucleus houses all of the genetic information that directs and regulates the cell's activity. Now, looking at the molecular aspect of Alzheimer's disease. There is progressive damage to the neurons and the connection between the neurons, which will eventually lead to the death of the neuron. Now, if this is passed down from generation, it does have a higher chance of developing in certain individuals, but the only thing is it has to be affected by the environment and the diet that individual is in or on. Now, this also disrupts processes that are vital to the neurons' function and their networks, such as communication between neurons, metabolism for the neurons, and neuron repair.
Beta amyloid is a large membrane protein that aids in neural growth and repair, but in excess can cause serious damage later on in life. Tau is also a protein, and it helps stabilize nerve cells, acting as skeletons for neurons. It holds a rigid, tube-like shape which, in addition to supporting the structure, allows for nutrients and other substances to pass through the neuron. The way communication to and from the brain works is through neurons. The message begins in one and continues to be relayed to the rest until the whole body receives a message and the stimulus is received. In a normal neuron, messages are sent from the axon terminals of one to the dendrites of others. In order for a message to be sent from one to another, it must cross a synapse. The synapse is a junction between the axon terminals of one neuron and the dendrites of another. Messages travel in only one direction and are received by the dendrites and travel through the cell body and the axon to the axon terminals. From there, they cross the synapses to the dendrites of other neurons. In a brain with dementia, amyloid plaques and neurofibrillary tangles prevent the message from being conveyed properly. Amyloid is naturally produced in the brain, and in a normal brain, amyloid would be broken down and disposed of. In a brain with dementia, these fragments clump up and become hard, insoluble accumulations between neurons that inhibit proper communication between neurons, and eventually cause death. Research so far has found that the growth cannot be reduced. Neurofibrillary tangles are twisted fibers of neurons. They are caused by a misfolding of proteins, and these interfere with cellular function and repair, which eventually causes cell death. The left side of the image depicts the same principle of the amyloid plaque in disintegrating microtubules leading to cell death. The right side of the image shows the effects over time on a macroscopic level. The neuron deaths lead to shrinkage of the cerebral cortex, which is responsible for higher-level brain processes and personality. Additionally, the ventricles that store the cerebral spinal fluid are enlarged, and the hippocampus, which is responsible for learning and memory, begins to shrink. The hippocampus, another vital part of the brain, is also greatly affected. As the neurons continue to die, the hippocampus decreases in size and causes a disconnect between the functions of the brain. Because the hippocampus is responsible for things like memory, learning, and spatial navigation, it becomes clear why the effects of Alzheimer's cause affected patients to lose cognition, memory, and perception.
Now you might be wondering, what does Alzheimer's look like? Let's walk through the 3 main stages of Alzheimer's disease, how it's represented, and how it develops. During stage 1 of Alzheimer's, it's common to see patients have a gradual decline in memory, thinking and reasoning skills, they are misplacing items, and they're forgetting the names of places, objects, and even people.
Vegetable oil, cereal, and milk. Oh, wait. Where are my keys? Hello, keys? Yoo-hoo! Where are my keys? Where are they? Oh, here they are. Ooh, I'm hungry. This isn't milk. Where's my milk? I forgot the milk.
During stage 2 of Alzheimer's, symptoms include increasing confusion and disorientation, obsessive, repetitive, or impulsive behavior, and difficulty performing spatial tasks, such as judging distances, walking upstairs, etc.
Hey, neighbor. What are you doing here? I thought this was my house.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Have a good day.
No worries. Sorry.
When performing simple tasks, such as collecting the daily mail, it's common for patients to forget completely what they're doing and begin a new task.
Oh, I've fallen and I can't get up.
During stage 3 of Alzheimer's, symptoms include significant problems with short-term and long-term memory, difficulty changing positions or moving around without assistance, and gradual loss of speech, problems with speech, or no talking at all.
Barbara. Wake up. You slept the whole day.
The challenges for Alzheimer's cure is that the current treatment focuses on maintaining mental function and managing behavioral symptoms. In order to slow down or delay the disease progression, an individual must maintain a healthy lifestyle and alternative therapy. But currently, there is no cure for Alzheimer's, only prolonged treatment. How to communicate with individuals that have Alzheimer's. Never argue, instead agree. Never reason, instead divert. Never shame, instead distract. Never lecture, instead reassure. Never say remember, instead reminisce. Never say I told you, instead repeat or regroup. Never say you can't, instead do what they can. Never say command or demand, instead ask or model. Never condescend, instead encourage and praise. Never force, instead reinforce.
Let's take a look at some of the interesting facts about Alzheimer's disease. Did you know that it is a very common disease? There are more than 3 million cases per year in the United States. This disease is very common for ages 60 years and older. Family history may also increase the likelihood of having Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease cannot be cured, but treatment can help to manage symptoms and lifestyle.
So why is Alzheimer's important? It is important because it will allow individuals to understand the cellular and molecular makeup of that disease. We know these things because previous research has been done to further study and the management of Alzheimer's. And how does it help with the future? In the future, we are trying to understand these aspects to better understand the topic.